Let's talk about the Jews. The translators deliberately changed the truth of the Bible. I continue to suffer as I receive the detailed news of the atrocities unfolding in Gaza, even though I am conscious that the divine creates everything in perfection. My dental associate during many years, Huda, was a wonderful Palestinian woman. She is now regularly in my thoughts. Most of the information I receive is from Max Igan, the Crow House. Max is an Australian. His intuition told him to leave Australia right before the complete lockdown. He has been living in Acapulco, Mexico since 2021 and recently experienced the Acapulco hurricane. Max Igan and David Icke are my two favorite teachers. Interesting to note that both of them dropped out of high school and are therefore self-educated. This has been a great advantage because they had much less programming to deprogram. I, on the other hand, am highly educated. My old personality had the doctor title because I was a dentist for 25 years. Further, my entire extended family is highly educated. They are all medical doctors, another dentist, one chiropractor, and one teacher. They think I am in some sort of a cult, or at the very least hypnotized by David Icke and Ghis, the ex-Dr. Ghislaine Lanctôt. They do not know about Max. I suffer because they are in fact the ones who are deeply hypnotized and are incapable of facing the ugly truth. Once one faces the truth, the entire illusion, which is your entire life, and everything you have built up over all those years, falls apart. Most people are simply not able to face this dissolution of their entire lives, and therefore the lies continue. Recently, my mother has been asking me questions about the Jews because she remembers her mother, a good Ukrainian, expressing her hatred of the Ukrainian Jews. When Max posted this interview with Dr. Lorraine Day, I knew I had to yet again try to offer this information to my mother and my siblings. Lorraine Jeanette Day, February 24th, 1937 to November 10th, 2023, was an American author, orthopedic trauma surgeon, chief for orthopedic surgery at San Francisco General Hospital, and promoter of alternative cancer treatments. Her books: Who Rewrote the Bible? AIDS, What the Government Isn't Telling You? What Does It Take to Get Well? In this interview, Lorraine explains how and why the translators have deceived the whole world by deliberately changing the truth of the Bible. This interview is in English, and unfortunately my French and Spanish audience cannot benefit from it. I've therefore decided to translate a few of the screenshots. This book, the Talmud, says abusing children is okay. Raping women is okay. Killing whites is okay. Enslaving whites is okay. Stealing money is okay. Raping newborn babies is okay. Breaking babies' spines is okay. Murdering children is okay. Stealing land is okay. Let's talk about the Jews. All 10 of Biden's high-profile appointees are Jews. That's right, every single one. The Nazi made me afraid to be a Jew, and the Israelis make me ashamed to be a Jew. Dr. Israel Shahak was an Israeli professor of organic chemistry, a Holocaust survivor, and a civil rights advocate and activist. Israel has killed 1,697 children in Gaza over 60 days. Free Palestine. The Zionist argument to justify Israel's present occupation of Arab Palestine has no intelligent or legal basis in history, not even in their own religion, Malcolm X. It would be my greatest sadness to see Zionists, Jews, do the Palestinian Arabs much of what Nazis did to Jews. Albert Einstein. We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. Nelson Mandela. Palestine belongs to the Arabs, in the same sense that England belongs to the English or France belongs to the French. It is wrong and inhumane to impose the Jews on the Arabs. Mahatma Gandhi. The genealogy of Jesus of Nazareth. The word Jew is nowhere to be found in the good book. The word Jew did not come into existence until the year 1775 AD, whereas the occurrences in the good book place from around 4000 BC to 70 AD. Jews today are not Hebrews of the Bible. Today, those who are known as Jews are in fact the non-Semitic and non-Israelite Ashkenazim, Sephardim, and Samaritans, who in later times joined small numbers of other races that converted to Judaism, Pharisaism, Polish, Russian, Ukrainians, Germans, etc. These later ones form a minority known as European Jews, who, when coupled with Ashkenazim, constitute a majority against the darker-skinned Samaritans, Sephardic, and African Jews. Discover what happened to the Hebrews. Jew or Judah? This seal means 1. Announcing the birth of a new world order. Its head will be Lucifer. It will be based on depravity and rebellion. Birth May 1st, 1776. All wars are bankers' wars. World War I. Britain was losing the war against Germany. The Zionists stepped in and manipulated President Wilson to get U.S. into the war to help them. In return, the Jews asked the British Empire to deed them Palestine, to create Israel. Their wish was granted in the form of the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which cost the world 18 million dead. During that same period, the Jewish Bolsheviks, who took over the Russian government in the 1910, killed 66 million Christians, 200,000 members of the Christian clergy, and destroyed 40,000 churches. World War II. The Zionists fomented that war, just like they're doing today with Iran and other countries in the Middle East, so that the European Jews could feel threatened. The deception worked as European Jews fled in droves to Palestine and took over the homes of Palestinians, who were evicted at gunpoint and then either massacred or driven out of their land into neighboring Arab countries. With enough Jews on the ground, Israel was created in 1948 at a cost of 80 million dead. World War III. with Russia protecting Syria and Iran from Israel's Machiavellian design, will the Zionists succeed in bringing the world to the brink of disaster to create greater Israel? If they do, will it instead bring about their downfall? Hell is empty, and all the devils are here. IMF, International Monetary Fund. The sinister move from securing our individual rights to collectivism and intervention in every aspect of our lives. UN Agenda 2030. Migration of the 12 tribes of Israel. A quick synopsis of this story involves the following. The house of Judah has a distinct mission of bringing forth the Messiah through the lineage of King David. Having fulfilled its mission in the land of Judah, the Judahite dynasty dies out for good, but only in Judea. The Davidic dynasty is alive and well in Europe. They are known as King Arthur and the British kings, Charlemagne, and the Germanic kings, such as the Habsburgs, the Tsars, etc. All the kings and queens of Europe are, in fact, descendants of King David. The land of Jews in ancient times. The destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. From the year 63 BC to 1948, the land of the Jews was ruled by other powers. The past 430 years by Turkey and Britain. The truth is that the Jewish faith and Zionism are two very different philosophies. They are as opposite as day and night. The Jewish people have existed for thousands of years. In their 2,000 years of divinely decreed exile, no Jew ever sought to end this exile and establish independent political sovereignty anywhere. The people's sole purpose was the study and fulfillment of the divine commandment of the Torah. The Zionist movement created the Israeli state. The latter is a persuasion less than 100 years old. Its essential goal was and is to change the nature of the Jewish people from that of a religious entity to a political movement. From Zionism's inception, the spiritual leaders of the Jewish people stood in staunch opposition to it. To this day, Torah Jewry remains forever loyal to its faith. Zionists want the world to believe that they are the representatives of the entire Jewish people. This is false. The Jewish people never chose them as their leaders. The Zionists have deceived many well-meaning Jewish people via terror, trickery, and false propaganda. They have at their disposal the use of a nearly universal, subservient media. Whoever attempts to criticize them puts his livelihood and, at times, his life in danger. Some religious Jews, confused by Zionist propaganda, quote biblical verses that state that God gave the children of Israel the Holy Land. They overlook, unfortunately, those verses which say that He took it away due to our sins. They further ignore those prophecies which explicitly describe the last exile's conclusion as a divine, not a human process. The Creator has commanded every Jew to follow the ways of peace and to be loyal to the country where he lives. Torah, true Jewry, waits patiently for the messianic redemption. They have nothing to do with any kind of pseudo-Jewish state and its aggression against other peoples. They have a deep sympathy for the plight of the Palestinians who have suffered the most from Zionism's false teachings and barbaric actions. The Zionist state is not a Jewish state. The Zionists alone are the only ones responsible for their actions. Authentic Jewry has and will continue to oppose the very existence of this blasphemous state. May all mankind witness the true redemption. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. Nathan Rothschild. Jewry did 9/11. You're being killed for a lack of knowledge. Jesus was not a Jew. Real eyes realize real lies. Infinite
Maybe we could start with the fact that not only have the translators changed many words in the Bible and added words and taken words out and changed words, but one thing that is responsible for much of the trouble that's going on in the world right now, in every country in the world, is that the word Jew is not in the Bible, nor is the word Gentile. The translators have added those words. The word is either Judean or Judahite or Yehudi in Hebrew, which does not mean Jew. It is not an ethnicity. The difference, the Bible clearly tells us that the difference between the Judeans and the nations, which is the real word that's been mistranslated, Gentiles, was whether they worshiped the true God or whether they worshiped many pagan gods. The Judahites and the Judeans were the ones either from the tribe of Judah or that worshiped the God who was in the temple in Jerusalem, which was in Judea. And they were called Judeans or Judahites, or in the Hebrew, Yehudi, which is a variation on the word Jehovah, because there was no J in any language until about the 13th century. And so this was a designation of who they worshipped and not an ethnicity.
Not all of a sudden. It's been a few hundred years, right?
The King James Version was written in 1611, and that's when the major change was made. And instead of Judean and Judahite, the word was changed to Jew. The word nations is sometimes actually translated correctly, but and in other parts it's translated heathen, which means non-believer in the true God, and that is also correct. But then they call it Gentiles. What they have done is they've taken a form of worship. In other words, do you worship the true God or do you worship multiple pagan gods? That's what the word Judahite or Judean or Yehudi means, that you worship the true God. And the word nations or heathen means you worship many pagan gods. So it was a form of worship. But what the translators have done is they've changed it into a supposed ethnicity, as though there are ethnic Jews and ethnic Gentiles. The Old Testament Israelites were not Jews. The Old Testament Israelites were just people. And in fact, when they came out of Egypt in the Exodus, the Bible tells us that they were a mixed multitude. They were not Jews. So the present-day Jews, those who call themselves Jews, have no relationship at all to the Old Testament Israelites and have no right to the land of Palestine, none at all. The present-day Jews, as you well know, are actually of Gentile, if you will, origin. They are barbarian Mongol Turks who accepted the culture and religion of Judaism in about the 8th century. So the present-day Jews, the people who are occupying Israel, have no right to be there. And the whole idea that they are the chosen people is baloney. It has nothing to do with that. Jesus was not a Jew. Almost every religion believes that Jesus was a Jew, an ethnic Jew. He was not. Not only that, the Jews of today say if your mother was a Jew, well, then you are a Jew. But Jesus had lots of non-Israelites in his lineage. Rahab was a Canaanite. She was not an Israelite primarily. Ruth, who married Boaz, was in the line of Jesus, and she was not an Israelite. So this whole idea of confusing everyone in the religious world into thinking that the present-day Jews are somehow the offspring of the Old Testament Israelites is the biggest con game of all time. It's even probably bigger than the Federal Reserve con game, because it is responsible for almost all the wars in the world. Because who's behind all the wars?
Exactly, one particular group.
Right, one particular group. And so when you start looking at that, and this is not, you don't have to be a Hebrew scholar or you don't have to be a Greek scholar to figure this out. All you have to do is either go on the Internet and get an interlinear Bible, which has the Greek and the Hebrew and right below the English, and it shows you what these words mean if you have a concordance. And so all you have to do is look these things up. It's very clear there. And in the interlinear Bible, they'll have on the left side, they'll have the literal translation, and on the right side, they'll have the King James translation, and you can see in many instances where they actually change it, such as Jesus was not resurrected on Sunday or the first day of the week. Jesus was resurrected on the Sabbath, and the Bible tells you what day the Sabbath was. The Sabbath was Saturday. That's when the Pharisees were angry at Jesus for healing on the Sabbath and for them taking grain out of the field on the Sabbath, because the Pharisees accused Jesus of breaking the Sabbath. And so you can see on the left-hand side in the literal version, the word is Sabbath. And then they change it on the other side to first day of the week.
Wow.
So you can see this. It's amazing what they have done.
And you say that Jesus was not a Jew, and you mentioned Ruth, and she was a Moabite, I believe.
Right.
And yes, well, so that kind of is indicative that he did have other bloodlines, other tribes.
Well, the other ones, yeah, but see, again, he wasn't a Jew. He was a Judahite because he was from the tribe of Judah.
Oh, okay.
All right, he was a Judahite. But he wasn't a Jew. There is a difference between a Judahite and a Jew. They have shortened it to make it into an ethnicity. A Judahite wasn't even an ethnicity. It was the tribe that you were from. It's sort of like if you were born in Riverside County or Hennepin County, that's the county you were born in, but that doesn't make you a different ethnicity.
All right, so you're referring to the 12 tribes of Israel, and of which
Right.
Judah was one of the sons.
Right, but see, all of the 12 tribes of Israel, by today's religions, were considered Jews. But they weren't.
I don't know how they come up with that. I've always kind of wondered about that.
Well, that's because they consider the word Israelite synonymous with Jew. But it was not. You see, when Jacob, here's the thing, you have to say, well, who was the first Jew? Well, they say, well, Abraham was the father of the Jews. Well, Abraham was a Babylonian. He came from Ur the Chaldees, which was Babylon. And so he came to Canaan. Well, he was a Babylonian who came to Canaan, which was a pagan nation. That didn't make him a Jew, all right? Sarah was from Babylon. She came to Canaan. They were just people. And so they were Babylonians. They came to Canaan, and then they had a child named Isaac. Well, Isaac was just the son of two Babylonians. He wasn't Jewish. And then Isaac had twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Well, Esau has never been considered a Jew, all right? Because only Jacob was considered a Jew. Jacob's name was changed to Israel when his character changed, because Jacob means supplanter or deceiver, and when he finally gave up a life of deception where he had deceived his father and he had deceived his future father-in-law and all that, he then decided to give it up because he was reaping what he had sown. His father-in-law deceived him and gave him the wrong woman for his bride, which was Leah, who was the sister of the one he wanted. So anyway, he gave up his life of deception. And so when he fought with the angel said, because your character has changed, now you are one with God, I am going to change your name to Israel. All right? His genes didn't change, only his name and his character changed. So from then on, the ones who worship the same God as Jacob now worshiped, whose name was changed to Israel, were called Israelites. All right? It was not a genetic thing. It was only a character thing. If you worship the true God, then you were an Israelite.
All righty. And Jacob had something like, 4 wives, and his children were conceived with those 4 women, not all
yes,
one woman.
He had 2 wives and 2 concubines, and the children were of the concubines and the wives. All right.
Right.
But the thing is, not only were his family called Israelites, but all those who worshiped the same God were also called Israelites. The point being that an Israelite was one who worshiped the true God, and that was called a Judean or a Judahite because Jesus was from the tribe of Judah, and so they were Judahites if they worshiped Jesus. Now you say, well, Jesus hadn't come to earth yet. But it was the Israelites were not Jews, they were Christians. They did not practice Judaism. Judaism did not start until after Jesus was crucified and resurrected, when the Pharisees, who called for his death, actually wrote down the oral traditions, and it became the Talmud. The Israelites were actually Christians because they were looking forward to Christ the Messiah.
And isn't that interesting, folks?
Let's rejoice, because the insanity we are experiencing is an illusion, which is forcing more and more people to awaken. However, we must have compassion for those who are incapable of awakening, because the mRNA injections have created a separation from the individual soul. The only way out of the illusion is through absolute non-compliance. The courageous ones have consciously chosen to get out of the illusion and will continue their evolution of consciousness on the ascending crystal spiral. I know my jail experience was a blessing because it forced me to leave Canada and what was perceived as a perfect life of a very successful dentist and a mother of 2 wonderful children. I accessed the courage within me, abandoned myself to my soul, and jumped into the complete unknown. Today, I'm able to offer guidance to those who choose life in Colombia or Ecuador. A long-term stay at Cascada Café Retiro is $120 per week. During your stay, expand your consciousness with a 2-day Infinite Love Consciousness workshop. Who am I? And what the hell have I come to do on this earth? Learn about the miraculous Sacha Inchi nut. This oleaginous plant has a very high protein content with all the essential amino acids and fatty acids for the maximum well-being of human health. Finally, I offer reconstructive dentistry at a very affordable price. I'm guided by the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Since February 29, 1956, The supermind has been operational on Earth as an active evolutionary power. A new phase of evolution has begun amidst the collapse of the old world. Infinite love consciousness is an invitation to take part in an unprecedented adventure of consciousness. Will you join us? Infinite